Look at the person next to you. They see a commuter, a colleague, just another face in the crowd. They see you clock in, and they see you clock out. They think they know your ceiling. But while they're busy performing for likes, you're busy engineering an empire in the shadows. This is what Machiavelli called the art of concealment. It's the lethal discipline of appearing harmless while you consolidate real, untouchable strength. Most people build to be seen, but the elite, they build to be felt, only when it's too late to stop them. Today, I'm revealing the blueprint for building a fortune in total: strategic silence. In America, we are conditioned to believe that success must be broadcasted. We're told that if you didn't post the Porsche on Instagram or the corner office on LinkedIn, it didn't happen. But the Machiavellian knows that attention is the most expensive tax you will ever pay. Visibility attracts envy, and envy attracts sabotage. Look at the quiet millionaires of the Midwest. They don't live in the glass towers of Manhattan. They live in unremarkable brick houses in suburbs you've never heard of. They drive 10-year-old Ford F-150s that blend into every parking lot in the country. While their neighbors are drowning in debt to maintain a facade of wealth, these architects are quietly funneling 7 figures into private trusts. Here is your first lesson. Power that hides, grows. Power that shows, decays. If people think you are average, they leave you alone. And in that solitude, you have the freedom to build without interference. But don't mistake silence for stagnation, while your outer life remains a constant, boring baseline. Your inner world must be compounding at a lethal pace, because the moment you stop moving, you become a target. And that leads us to the fuel of your empire. If you're not showing your wealth, where exactly is it going? The answer lies in how you treat every single dollar that enters your hands. Most people view money as a tool for consumption. They see a paycheck and think of a new iPhone, a vacation, or a lease on a car they can't afford. But the strategist sees something different. To you, every dollar is not a piece of paper. It is a soldier, a loyal, tireless soldier in your private army. When you spend that dollar on a depreciating asset, you are sending your soldier to die on a battlefield that yields no territory. You are losing a life that could have fought for your freedom. Machiavelli observed that a prince who relies on mercenaries is never secure. In modern terms, if your only source of security is a salary paid by someone else, you are a ruler with no army of your own. Look at the wealthy in the United States. They don't hoard cash in a savings account where inflation slowly executes their troops. No, they deploy them. They send their soldiers into the S&P 500, into rental properties in the Sun Belt, or into automated businesses. These soldiers work 24 hours a day. They don't complain, and most importantly, they capture more soldiers while you sleep. Here is your lesson. A commander who keeps his army idle will eventually be overthrown by the cost of maintenance. You must be aggressive in deployment, but surgical in your targets. But remember, a large army is useless if it's easily ambushed. As your wealth grows, so does the target on your back. And that is why your next move isn't about how much you make, but how much of you the world can actually see. We live in an era of digital exhibitionism. The modern man feels an obsessive need to be seen, to be liked, and to be validated by strangers. He broadcasts his location, his purchases, and his opinions as if he's auditioning for a role he'll never get. But in the Machiavellian playbook, visibility is a liability. To be seen is to be measured, and to be measured is to be controlled. Every photo of your lifestyle is a data point for your enemies, a tax audit waiting to happen, or a seed of resentment in the mind of a peer. Look at the elite power brokers in the shadows of sea, or the private family offices in Greenwich. You won't find them on TikTok. They don't influence. They command. They understand that privacy is a form of currency that appreciates every time you choose not to spend it. Digital ghosting isn't just about deleting apps. It's about erasing the target on your back. If the world cannot find you, they cannot strike you. Here is your lesson. A lion does not announce his presence until the hunt is over. The moment you trade your privacy for applause, you surrender your leverage. But hiding your person is only half the battle. Even a ghost leaves a trail of breadcrumbs. If you want to be truly untouchable, you must learn to hide not just your face, but the very walls that protect your fortune. In the eyes of the state, you are not a citizen. You are a resource. Most people work from January to May just to pay for the privilege of existing in a system that doesn't care if they survive. The average American sees taxes as a moral duty. The Machiavellian sees them as a siege on his fortress. If you are building an empire in silence, the loudest person in the room is the one who knows exactly how much you owe them. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should avoid being a predator to his subjects' property. Yet, modern governments are the ultimate predators. To protect your dominion, you must master the art of the tax shadow. This isn't about evasion, it is about efficiency. Look at how the ultra-wealthy operate in states like Wyoming or Delaware. They don't hold assets in their own names. They use LLCs, anonymous trusts, and corporate veils to become invisible to the taxman's gaze. While the middle class begs for a refund, the architect engineers his life so there is nothing to seize in the first place. Here is your lesson. It is not what you earn, but what you defend. $1 saved from the tax predator is a soldier that never has to be recruited again. But hiding from the government is easy compared to the next challenge, because as you become more efficient and more distant, the people around you will notice the change. They will feel your absence, and they will resent your silence. To be invisible is to be misunderstood. As you withdraw from the digital noise and stop performing for the crowd will react. In America, if you don't broadcast your status, people assume you've failed. They see your old car, your modest clothes, and your silence, and they label you as average. They might stop inviting you to the parties. They might pity you over small talk. This is the first great test of the architect. Machiavelli warned that the masses are always taken by appearances, and what they cannot see, they cannot respect. But you must understand, their contempt is your camouflage. Look at the millionaire next door. He is the man who is ignored at the country club because he doesn't wear the gold watch. Yet, while the loud members are one bad month away from foreclosure, he owns the land they stand on. Social rejection is not a bug. It is a feature of sovereignty. It is the cost of buying back your time and your soul. Here is your lesson. If you seek validation from those who are trapped, you will never be free. Wear their judgment like armor. Let them think you are losing, while your bank account tells a different story. But beware. As you master your environment, you must also master your resources, because a ruler with only one fortress is still vulnerable to a single strike. To be truly untouchable, you must build a web of power that the world cannot even map. In the history of warfare, a city with only one wall is already captured. In the history of finance, a man with only one income is already bankrupt. He just hasn't realized it yet. The average American relies on a single paycheck from a single employer. This is not security. It is a hostage situation. You are one corporate restructuring or one bad boss away from total collapse. Machiavelli advised that a prince must build multiple fortifications so that if one falls, the others hold the line. Your fortresses are your passive income streams. They must be independent, resilient, and invisible. Look at the modern elite. They don't just own a business. They own the land the business sits on, the intellectual property it uses, and the index funds that hedge against its failure. If the market crashes, their real estate pays the bills. If the real estate market stalls, their dividends provide the ammunition. They are untouchable because they are diversified in the shadows. Here is your lesson. Dependence is the ultimate vulnerability. Your goal is not to have one big pile of cash, but a web of tributaries that flow into your river of wealth regardless of your effort. But a web is only as strong as its connections. To manage an empire of multiple fortresses, you cannot be the only one standing guard. You need a circle of trust. But in a world of betrayal, who can you truly trust to keep your secrets? Machiavelli famously wrote that there is no way to guard yourself against flattery other than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you. But in the pursuit of wealth, the truth is rarely what people offer. They offer smiles while calculating your net worth. They offer advice while eyeing your position. To build an empire in silence, you cannot be a hermit, but you must be a gatekeeper. Your circle of discretion is not a group of friends. It is a council of ghosts. These are the allies who know of your strength but have no interest in broadcasting it. Look at the legal and financial structures in the United States. The truly powerful don't talk to friends about their moves. They talk to specialized attorneys and tax strategists who are bound by privilege and professional silence. They understand that a leaked secret is a breached wall. If your cousin, your neighbor, or your old college roommate knows your exact net worth, you have already failed the test of discretion. Here is your lesson. A secret is only a weapon as long as you are the only one holding the handle. The moment you share it to feel important, you have handed the blade to someone else. Choose allies who value their own privacy as much as yours. But even with the perfect circle, your legacy is incomplete if it's only about accumulation. To truly master the game, you must learn the most paradoxical rule of power, how to give without ever being seen. In the world of the mediocre, charity is just another form of marketing. The celebrity writes a check and demands a gala in their honor. The influencer films themselves giving $1 to a homeless man for the sake of a viral clip. They aren't giving, they are trading. They are trading their wealth for a cheap, fleeting social currency. But the architect understands that true power is a ghost. Machiavelli argued that a prince should appear merciful, but he never said he should be loud about it. When you give anonymously, you bypass the ego. You influence the world without giving the world a chance to debt collect your soul. Think of the secret foundations in America that fund medical research or local scholarships without a single name on the building. No marble statues, no brass plaques, just results. This creates a paradoxical form of authority. You become a force of nature, a silent architect of change that no one can resent because no one knows you exist. Here is your lesson. If you need the world to know you are a good person, you are still a slave to their opinion. Real sovereignty is the ability to change lives while remaining a stranger to the beneficiaries. It is the ultimate exercise in self-command. But do not confuse this kindness with weakness. Even as you heal the world in secret, you are preparing for the final phase of your evolution. Because an empire without a timeline is just a dream. And it's time to look at the clock. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year. but they catastrophically underestimate what they can achieve in 7. In the Machiavellian world, haste is a weakness that leads to exposure. To build an empire that lasts, you must adopt the stealth path. Years 1 to 3 are the garrison phase. During this time, you are invisible. You cut every unnecessary expense. You kill your ego, and you focus entirely on accumulating your first army of capital. You look like a failure to the world, but your spreadsheet says otherwise. Years 4 to 6 are the fortification phase. This is where you deploy your soldiers into assets that the world cannot easily track. You move from cash to equity, from equity to trusts. You are no longer just saving. You are engineering your defense. Then, year 7, the dominion phase. This is when the silent river you've been diverting finally hits the turbine. The income from your hidden assets now exceeds your living expenses. You are officially free, but here is the secret. You don't tell a soul. You continue to walk among the crowd as if nothing has changed. Look at the tech founders in Austin or the real estate moguls in Florida who sold their companies years ago. They still wear the same plain t-shirts. They still drive the same trucks. Why? Because they know that the moment you reveal the prize, you invite the thieves. Here is your lesson. Patience is not just a virtue. It is a strategic weapon. The longer you can endure being nobody, the more powerful you become when you finally become everything. But freedom is not the end of the road. It is merely the beginning of a higher responsibility. Once you have mastered the clock, you must master the legacy. We have built the fortresses, we have deployed the army, and we have erased the trail. But the final and most dangerous battlefield is not the market or the government. It is your own mind. In America, wealth is often a cage disguised as a palace. Most men, once they achieve a certain number, become slaves to their own success. They fear losing it. They start looking for new audiences to impress. They return to the very noise they fought so hard to escape. But the Machiavellian architect seeks something higher than riches. He seeks sovereignty. Sovereignty is the ability to walk away from any table, at any time, without explaining why. It is the ultimate form of self-command. Machiavelli wrote that it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. In the same way, it is not your bank account that makes you powerful. It is your internal detachment from it. Look at the historical figures who survived the fall of dynasties. They weren't the ones clinging to their gold. They were the ones who kept their heads while everyone else was losing theirs. Here is your final lesson. True wealth is what is left when you lose everything the world can see. If you can sit in a room alone, in total silence, and feel like a king without a single witness, you have achieved mastery. Your empire is now complete. But remember, a king without a successor is just a footnote in history. If this journey has changed your perception of power, don't just walk away. The code is now yours to protect. Watch the next video to understand the hidden mechanics of influence, or stay silent and begin your reign. The choice, as always, is yours.